what's up, guys? Welcome to the Tranquil Living Uruguay podcast. I'm Vanessa, your host. In this episode, I'm diving into what it's like having pets in Uruguay. I'm sharing the real day to day experience of raising animals here. So let's get into it. As a family with multiple dogs, cats, and chickens on our farmhouse property, we've learned a lot about how to care for animals here in Uruguay, from vet visits, vaccinations, to the reality of letting animals roam freely and how neighbors look out, for each other's pets. I'll help you understand what to expect if you do bring pets from abroad or if you plan to acquire pets while living here. So, what's it like having pets in Uruguay? Well, luckily, Uruguay has a really good pet culture. In general, it's very dog friendly and cat friendly, more than what I anticipated. Coming from San Diego, California, that place was very dog and pet friendly. You could take your dog out to restaurants, al fresco dining. I'll never forget when I first moved to San Diego and I'd gone out to, it's like some beer festival, and all these bars were open, celebrating this like beer festival, or it was like a brew fest kind of thing. And I'll never forget, like, there was like people chilling with a dog on top of the bar. And I'd never seen anything like that before, and before moving to San Diego. And then once I saw that, I was like, okay, wow, like people are like legit dog lovers here. So I thought that was so cute. Um, so like I said, like there are quite a few places here in Uruguay that are pet friendly. Some of the shopping malls are actually pet friendly. The store called Sodimac, which is like the Uruguayan version of Home Depot, is pet friendly. Um, so so it's, definitely like there's a pet friendly culture here. Parks and green spaces in Montevideo, for example, usually tend to be dog friendly. I have seen some children's playground, or that the ones that are particular that are like fenced off. There's obviously like playgrounds, they call them placitas, little playgrounds, throughout the city that, they're open and you're free and welcome to bring your dog there. But specifically, I'm thinking of like one in this area called Villa Biarritz. So that one's fenced off. It's like a lower fence, and I know dogs aren't allowed in there. But for the most part, in open green spaces, they're welcome. Oh, another place where it isn't allowed in Montevideo that I've seen is because we tried to bring our dog and it didn't work. Um, there is like this zoo. It's not like a legitimate zoo, but it's kind of like a park where they do have different like animals, like monkeys and some kind of like exotic birds. I think there's a type of jaguar there or something. I can't really remember off the top of my head. But that place, I know you can't bring a dog because of, I guess, the other animals that are are currently there. Um, but like I said, in green spaces for the most part, like dogs are, roaming around, friendly, on leash, off leash. In the botanical garden in Montevideo, I have seen signs where you can bring pets, but they must be on a leash. So just kind of like be aware of your surroundings always. Um, I know some questions are asked, oh, are dogs allowed on the beach? Yes, they usually are, except during high season, which is the summertime between December to March. So that's pretty fun. You go to the beach and usually tend to run in to people with dogs. So it's really fun. So we actually moved to Uruguay with no pets. I have always loved dogs and cats, but I never had any myself personally, not even when I was little growing up. My husband is a pet lover and he grew up with a lot of pets. So, he had that experience, but my first experience was here in Uruguay. And a lot of people want to know if and how they are able to bring their pets with them to Uruguay. So I don't personally know the process or have the experience of moving to Uruguay with a pet, but I know it's like a very involved process with certain vaccination requirements, I think veterinary certifications, and clearance and the organization of flying on certain airlines with a pet. So I don't have that information, unfortunately, like as personal experience. But however, we have acquired multiple dogs and cats after moving here. So I'll speak to my experience on that. Our first couple of days of being in Montevideo, we went to check out the Villa Biarritz Park in the Punta Carretas area, the one that I mentioned earlier. And there were a lot of dogs and dog owners like playing catch with their pets, letting them run around off leash. And like I said, it's not like necessarily a designated dog park per se, but a lot of dogs are there all the time. So our daughter approached one dog that was like really sweet and lovable, and we got to talking with the dog owner. He happened to speak English because he had lived in the US for about 15 years or so and, kind of retired back in his home country of Uruguay. And we got to talking with him, and he was curious of like our story and why we were moving to Uruguay. This was literally like day 2 or 3 in Montevideo. And we told him that we were looking at different rescues to adopt a good family dog since we're moving to the country. We knew we wanted to have one, two, at least. I knew we were going to end up with at least two dogs to kind of like help, you know, guard and take care of the property and whatnot. And we will never forget this one quote that this guy said. He goes, let the dog choose you." And my husband and I, we still quote this to this day because we just thought it was so funny and hilarious. Let the dog choose you. Don't choose the dog. Let it choose you. So that was like a funny story when we first moved here. But our requirement for our first family dog was that it had to be good with kids and good with cats because we knew that we were going to get at least one cat to help us with rodent or field mice like control since we were going to be living in the countryside. And my husband worked with a great dog rescue to find our family dog. We had him picked out, and they actually brought the dog to us. We did have to pay them like a small fee for gas because they were coming from Montevideo out into, the countryside where we live. So they'd asked if we could at least um, help pay for gas. So we did. I think it was just like, I don't know, like not even $10. Um, and and so they came, but they actually came with two dogs. And I think they had given my husband like a heads up, hey, like we're also gonna bring another dog that we think would be great. I think they're just kind of like trying to pawn off the other dog to us. So they arrived with two dogs. Patchy, the one that we had our eyes set on and that we had picked out, loved him. He was super great. He literally fit in immediately. The other dog, however, we experienced her for a couple days, but in the end, we decided to return her because one, we weren't looking for two dogs. We had literally just moved into our house, and we had a 1-year-old daughter, and this dog was like very puppy-ish, and so it was going to have to take a lot of training. And she wasn't really getting along with the one that we had picked out. So she wasn't a good fit for our family, especially having a 1-year-old at the time. So we did give her back to the dog rescue and we kept our selected dog, and he turned out fantastic. The absolute best dog I've ever had. And we just love him so much. The rescue continually like reached out to check up on our dog, how the dog was doing throughout the first year of having him. And that was just to kind of make sure, he was doing good, that we were doing good, and that all was well. So I think probably about like quarterly, the dog rescue would reach out to me personally, like on my WhatsApp, and ask how he was doing and to send pictures. And then we never really heard from them again. But overall, pet adoption is pretty common here in Uruguay, whether it's through a rescue organization that we worked with or ones that are, lost and found and lost or, just, actual puppies that are posted to Facebook or Mercado Libre. There are a lot of adoption pet adoption groups on Facebook groups. So you can just Google, you know, Adopción Uruguay, mascotas. You'll pretty much find what you're looking for, and just people post their dogs that they're, giving up for adoption, and, a contact number and picture. So, so adopt is great. Adoption is great. We love adoption. Next, we got our first cat. My neighbor's cat had a litter of my neighbor's cat had a litter of kittens, so we ended up taking one. And then one day, probably about like a year, I don't know, like 10 months to a year later, one of my neighbors found an abandoned kitten in the ditch in front of her house. She had posted him in our neighborhood WhatsApp group, and in the end, we ended up adopting him. And he was the best cat, despite who knows whatever trauma he went through. I don't know if he was just kind of like thrown on the side of the road or got lost. Who knows? Um, but since we live in the country and like our pets roam freely, we have to be cautious or aware of, you know, some things like predators and whatnot. So our cat eventually went missing, the one that we took in from the side of the road, and we don't know if another animal or predator got to him or if he was taken because he was just like this really beautiful white cat with like ice blue eyes, and he was just super sweet and lovable. To this day, we don't know exactly what happened, which is really sad. We had posted pictures of him around our area, saying that, he was lost and that we were looking for him. And from that flyer that we posted around, someone had reached out telling me that a white kitten similar to ours had appeared at her house. It was a neighbor who lives like a couple miles away. And it wasn't our cat, but we ended up going over to see him, and we just like loved him. He was really another cute white cat with blue eyes. And so we just took him home and he became ours. And he's also really sweet and a really wonderful family cat. And so the thing about living out in the country is, just to keep in mind, is it's nice and all, but then at some times random dogs or cats may appear on your property. Our dogs usually kind of, you know, scare these intruders away, these pet intruders away, but sometimes they don't. So the way we got our second dog was just that he randomly showed up one day to our house and our property, and we don't know if he got dumped nearby or if, by somebody, or if he was lost, but he was living in the bushes at our house, and our dog became really good friends with him. And at first he was like really skittish and would kind of literally, as soon as if I would even look at him, he would run away. But slowly over time, like within a matter of like a month, he warmed up to us, started staying a little longer. Um, he began eating the food we'd leave out for him. And in the end, he just stayed and he became our dog. He just wandered onto our property and into our lives and into our hearts. So we now have two cats and two dogs, and our pets are, they love their lives here. They're just actively running around the property. We call it patrolling, and they're just perfect. We love our dogs and cats. So another topic I want to touch on is our neighbors, and how neighbors play a big role in helping look out for like each other's animals. Especially being the countryside, like everyone here has at least two dogs, at least a cat, or more. And every year when like Christmas or New Year's goes by, there's usually a situation where the pets get scared from the sounds of the loud fireworks, and then, they take off from their homes. And one year, a random dog came onto our property and took shelter in our barn because she got scared of the New York New Year's Eve fireworks, and we didn't like recognize the dog or know like who the owners were. So I posted a picture of him like in our neighbor. WhatsApp group, and one of our neighbors recognized him as the owners had been like frantically posting on social media looking for him. And since I still don't have like a large network of like Uruguayan followers or friends on social media, like I would have never seen that, someone in the area was, looking for their lost dog. So my neighbor in the group, in the WhatsApp group, put me in touch with the dog's owners who lived about like a mile or two away from us. So this dog came from like pretty far away and like took refuge in our barn. And we were able to reunite them, and so that was really sweet, and I'm glad we were able to do that. It's just nice to be able to like look out for each other in that sense with, our neighbors and our we all just kind of play a huge role in everyone pitching in and looking out for our beloved furry friends. And so living in the countryside, we are used to stray animals sometimes showing up, especially we've had a situation where our neighbor's dog was in heat. And because of that, other male dogs kind of come into the property, and it kind of causes chaos. But, you know, it's just those are some things you kind of have to deal with. Living in the city in Montevideo, you will see like some wandering dogs. I've never seen like crazy, I know kind of in like third world country or whatever, like you'll see like packs of dogs like running around. I haven't seen um very much of like the big packs of dogs. But I don't know, maybe some areas or neighborhoods, in the city may be worse than others. But as I'm driving throughout the city, I haven't seen it to be like too bad of a problem, to be honest. Um, and just in general, like I said, like it's like a very like pet friendly country. I've seen a lot of people with dogs, always out and about. All of our Uruguayan friends, um, throughout Montevideo and across Uruguay have dogs. So if you're concerned about like renting a home, for example, that's pet friendly, like there are plenty of options where for pet friendly rentals available, and obviously it's up to the landlord, but I don't think you'll have a problem. And if you're traveling around if you're traveling around Uruguay and you stay at Airbnbs, a lot of them are pet friendly. Like we have actually brought our dogs to some Airbnbs without any issue. So just something to keep in mind. All right, so now I'm going to speak to pet food in Uruguay. We actually get our pet food delivered from a local pet supply store. I just give them a call, tell them my order, and usually by the afternoon, they are delivering our pet food. And then I can just pay them on the spot. They usually bring a POS system, and I can just, pay with a card, or if I have cash on hand, I can pay them cash too. But if you're wondering about pet food, there are plenty of brands available ranging from the lower to mid to high tiers in terms of quality. And I actually personally noticed that a lot of the pet food brands get imported from Brazil. A lot of them are Brazilian. Like the one that we usually buy is Brazilian, and it's worked out for us. We usually buy kind of like the mid range tier of like the quality of food. And I typically buy a month's worth at a time. So it'll be like a 15-kilo bag for the dogs and like a 10-kilo bag for the cats. And that usually comes out to about $65 a month for that mid range quality pet food. If you're used to American brands and you want to use, kind of what you used back home in the US, they do have the BioFresh brand, Pedigree, Purina, Whiskas, and I think is how you say it, and Hills. But they're usually considered kind of like more the premium side and are more expensive. If you're wondering what veterinary care is like in Uruguay. Um, I have plenty of experience. We have had a number of emergencies for our pets, to be honest, whether it be from, one time our dog had run out to the road and he got hit by a motorcycle, or dog fights that have happened with other dogs that have wandered into our property. For example, that one that was like in heat. That one dog was in heat, and all these other male dogs came over, and it was just. I mean, our dogs are like spayed or neutered, but um, whenever there's the randos come onto the property, it can get a little spicy over here. So there are local veterinary like offices where clinics where you can bring your dog, and it's always good to know which ones are open 24 hours near you in the event that something happens like super late at night or really, really early in the morning outside of like office hours. Um, and there are also vets that do house calls. They usually tend to charge more, obviously, for the convenience of coming to your home. But that option is great, and it's helpful when you're in a situation when it's not easy to bring the dog to the clinic, like the dog's like badly hurt and so sometimes it's nice to have them come to the house, and I've had them do that on a couple of occasions. The veterinarians near me aren't English speaking. So if I have to explain something I wasn't able to like articulate in Spanish, I just kind of pull out like Google Translate, and that usually helps. But I assume like in Montevideo, there are English speaking vets available. And in terms of pet insurance, so I would say like each veterinary like clinic has or offers pet insurance. And I remember I got a quote from one of them, and it runs about $20 a month if you choose to do it. And that does help reduce the cost if you find yourself running to the vet for emergencies pretty often. Um, it definitely like lowers the consultation fee for whenever you go. Um, but to be honest, it's in general like veterinary care isn't that costly, so I opted not doing it. To get your pet spayed or neutered, we have taken them to the vet, and we have also had, the house call where they come to you. And that was a really neat option because it's a mobile van that goes to your house, and it's via appointment only, scheduled through WhatsApp. And they only charged $40, which turned out actually cheaper than going to the vet office. I don't know why, but we did it and it was great. The convenience, I think, was just like unbeatable because they come, you give them the dog, they do the operation, they hand you back the dog, and you're already home and you have the bed and everything ready for them to just kind of lay down and relax before they wake up and coming out of their sedation. And going back to office visits. So, an office visit for an emergency or wound clean, for example, without the pet insurance can run you about 75 to $90 for that initial like consultation visit. And that's with the medication for the pain and antibiotics included. And in my experience, the price varied if it was Sunday, for example. Like if I had some kind of emergency and I had to go in on a Sunday, I noticed that consultation fee, they charged me just like a little bit more because it was a Sunday visit, not a weekday visit. But in any case, usually all vets have like a 24-hour, if their office isn't open, for example, if their office closed at 7 and there's, some kind of an emergency after 7 p.m., they do have a number that you can call for 24/7 emergencies. And going back to um, like the consultation. So, say if we had an emergency, um, our dog got hurt somehow, and we took him to the initial visit where they cleaned up his wound, and then they usually require like follow-up checkups like every 2 days for wound care for the antibiotic shots. And normally when I go back for the follow-up, they will charge me like a $5-10 fee for just the shot itself. So overall, nothing that has you breaking the bank. Um, and I think it's doable, it's reasonable, and nothing outrageous and nothing to the point to where I was like, oh, like I have to have pet insurance because I won't be able to afford my pet if something terrible happens. So luckily it's worked out for us. Um, so the cool thing about Uruguay is yes, you do have great access to veterinary care. And we haven't required a specialist at this point, but I'm confident that there are some available in Montevideo for us if we do need it. I did notice that not all veterinarian or vet clinics have like x-ray machines available. For example, the one we go to, they have a designated day of the week, like Wednesdays, where they can do x-rays and ultrasounds because that's the designated day when the specialist comes in to do it or the technician comes in to do it. So there may have to be a situation where if you do need an x-ray and ultrasound, you may have to wait like a couple days to get that done, or you can just find, another clinic that has one available for like an emergency use type of thing. If we do have some kind of like emergency, like medical emergency for our pets, I just bring them and walk in. If I don't have an emergency, I'll call ahead of time and make an appointment. In terms of vaccines, there is a vaccine schedule given to your pets, and they each get a vaccination record card with their name on it, and it gets certified by the vet. And like I said, overall pet care here has been great. We have a very they've been just actually great and like patient, and they're very attentive to like our animals. We have a very difficult one of our cats is very difficult, and he can turn into a monster literally at the vet, and they've just been like so patient and great, and like, if they have to sedate him, they'll sedate him like when or if needed. But like I said, they've just been like so nice and helpful always. I haven't had like a bad experience so far. So are there any dangerous animals or diseases you should worry about? Well, we haven't had any large predators on our property that directly puts our pets in danger. In the countryside here, we just have like deer occasionally and a lot of jackrabbits. So no dangerous predators, thank goodness. Um, I mean, the worst has been random dogs coming onto our property, which is like the biggest threat. We do have to deal with the ticks and the fleas, but the good thing is that there is medication and, special shampoo washes that we can do to take care of that. So, another thing to take into consideration is that, if you want to travel and you have to leave your pets behind, how do you find like a pet sitter or boarding? So what I did is that I just kind of went onto just went and like Google searched or on Instagram, like doggy hotel type of thing. And I found this one place that was nearby, and it's outdoors. It's like an outdoor dog hotel, and that's where we board our pups. They have their own fenced area, and I usually bring their food, like provide their food, but you can also arrange so that the hotel gives them food, and I think they charge like an extra fee for it. They do offer pickup services, but I just personally usually go to drop them off and pick them up since it's nearby. And they charge about $15 per day per dog, which is a pretty good deal. Anyways, that is a little peek into our life here with our pets, our cats and our dogs. Um, if you're researching life in Uruguay or preparing to move with pets, or just simply curious to how animals fit in, hopefully this episode gives you a little bit of a guide on what it's actually like from boots on the ground here doing it. So I just think in general, like Uruguay offers a peaceful, like natural environment for pets, and everyone is very warm and welcoming towards them. So we love that. All right. Well, thank you so much for listening today. I hope you enjoyed it. Before I go, if you have a question about what life is like in Uruguay, please send in your questions. Anything about living abroad, travel, cultural experiences, or farmhouse living, nothing is off limits. So you can submit your questions at this website, this little Google form at bit.ly/asktlu. That is bit.ly/ASKTLU, all lowercase. And if you want more of this content, please like, follow, subscribe, and or write in a review. I read them all. Cheers.